So what if I told you that a 13-minute workout builds literally the exact same amount of physical strength as a grueling 68-minute workout?
I mean, it sounds totally absurd, that right? But that is exactly what the clinical data is showing us now.
Because, you're busy, you want results, but right now you might just be spending an extra 55 minutes in the gym doing, well, absolutely nothing for your body.
Yeah, people naturally fall into this trap, I think. They view training volume like a volume knob on a stereo.
Just crank it up.
Exactly. Just turn it to the right, put in more hours, and you'll automatically get bigger and stronger. But human physiology it doesn't work like that.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. Our mission is to cut through all that noise and decode exactly how much volume you actually need to hit your goals.
And save you a ton of time in the process.
Right. So we've got a really fascinating stack of sources to pull from. There's a pivotal clinical trial by Schoenfeld and his colleagues, plus expert programming guides from Kilo Strength Society and Weightology.
Yeah, and we'll also be looking at methodologies from triage method and precision point training.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I feel like treating all gym advice as equal is, well, it's like using a sledgehammer to hang a picture frame.
That's a great way to put it. You're just going to destroy the wall.
Exactly. We need to find the right tool for your specific body. So where do we even begin with this?
Well, before we figure out how much you should lift, we first need to establish the baseline. Like, what is the absolute minimum amount of work required to actually see a result?
The baseline. Okay.
Right. So human kinetics introduces this concept, they actually borrowed it from medicine, called the minimum effective dose.
Oh, like in anesthesia? Like
Yeah.
the smallest amount of a drug you need to keep someone under during surgery?
Spot on. You don't want to give a patient more anesthesia than they need or it becomes toxic. Training is the exact same way. It's the smallest physical input needed for the desired outcome.
Okay, that makes sense. And that brings us to that Schoenfeld study, right?
Yeah, this study is wild. They took trained men over an 8-week period and compared 3 different groups. Group 1 did just 1 set per exercise.
Just one set.
Just 1. Group 2 did 3 sets, and Group 3 did 5 sets per exercise.
Okay, so if we're talking about a normal workout, that one set group is basically in and out of the gym in what, 15 minutes?
13 minutes, actually. That was their average.
Wow, and the 5-set group?
They were grinding for 68 minutes a session. But here is the shocking fact. At the end of the 8 weeks, strength and endurance gains were identical across all the groups.
Wait, identical?
Completely identical. A 13-minute workout built just as much pure strength as a 68-minute workout. The minimum effective dose for strength is just incredibly low. You might only need 1 hard set a week.
So what does this all mean? I mean, if I want to, say, lift a car off a trapped bystander, 13 minutes of training is enough.
Basically, yeah. For pure neurological strength, yes.
But if I want my arms to look good in a t-shirt while I'm doing it, I have to stay in the gym for an hour.
Ah, and there's the catch. Because muscle hypertrophy, actual size, that followed a totally different dose-response curve in the study.
Okay, so size needs more volume. It's like boiling water, right? You only need a certain amount of heat to get it boiling for strength. But if you want to, like, reduce it down to a thick sauce for size, it just requires way more time.
That is a perfect analogy. The 5-set group built significantly more muscle. They saw a 5.5% increase in elbow extensor thickness, whereas the 1-set group only saw a 1.1% increase.
So more volume definitely equals more muscle size? But wait, if that's true, shouldn't you just do, I don't know, 50 sets a week, just live in the gym?
You'd think so, but no. That more is better rule eventually hits a massive brick wall. And this is where Men's Health and Weightology talk about junk volume.
Junk volume. That sounds like basically every Monday I've ever spent in the gym.
Right. We've all been there. It's training that takes up your time and effort, but gives you absolutely zero extra muscle or strength gains.
It's just making you tired.
Exactly. The optimal zone for hypertrophy, according to the data, is between 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week.
Okay, 10 to 20 per week. What about in a single day?
The possession limit is around 6 to 8 hard sets per muscle. Beyond that, you hit a logarithmic curve of diminishing returns. You're just digging a deeper recovery hole without triggering any new growth.
So what actually causes junk volume? Just doing too many sets?
That's part of it. But it's also caused by not lifting close enough to failure, or lifting loads that are so light you can easily bang out over 30 reps.
Oh, like just going through the motions with light dumbbells?
Yeah, but here's a really surprising fact from the sources. Taking rest periods that are too short is a massive cause of junk volume.
Wait, really? Here's where it gets really interesting because, everyone says you need to rest less to keep your heart rate up and get a good pump.
I know it's common advice, but resting under 90 seconds actually impairs hypertrophy for a given set.
No way.
Yeah, because your muscles don't have time to clear out fatigue and replenish energy. So on the next set, you can't lift as heavy or recruit as many muscle fibers.
So if I rest less to try and save time, I actually have to do more sets to get the same growth?
You might literally have to double your total sets to get the same result as someone who just sat on a bench and rested for 3 minutes.
That completely defeats the purpose of the fast workout. That's crazy.
It really is. So we have this 10 to 20 set rule, right? But that rule isn't some static law that applies to everyone equally.
Yeah, I'd imagine a pro bodybuilder needs something different than my buddy who just bought his first gym membership.
Exactly. And Kegel Strength Society explains this beautifully with their concept of training age. How much volume you can handle completely depends on how long you've been lifting.
Okay, so walk me through the stages. Where does a beginner start?
The true beginner, someone with 0 to 12 months of lifting, they're in the sponge phase.
The sponge phase. I like that.
Yeah, because their nervous system is highly plastic.
Yeah.
They respond to almost anything. They just need 60 to 80% loads, very simple linear progression, and repetitive practice.
Just stabilizing basic movement patterns, right?
Exactly. They don't need complex programs. But then, from 1 to 4 years, you enter the transition phase as an intermediate lifter.
And this is usually where people get super frustrated because the beginner gains just totally dry up.
Yes, your adaptations slow way down. For intermediates, Kilo recommends phase undulating periodization.
That sounds complicated. What does that actually mean?
It just means you alternate blocks of training. You do a block of higher volume, and then you switch to a block of higher intensity.
Yeah.
You're constantly shifting the stimulus.
Okay, so you're intermediate up to 4 years. What happens after 4 years?
4 years and beyond, you are the specialist. You are an advanced lifter.
So you can just lift whatever you want.
Actually, it's much harder. At this stage, your neural efficiency is so high that you recruit high-threshold motor units instantly. But that creates massive fatigue.
Like system-wide fatigue.
Yes. Muscle gains are incredibly slow here. Advanced lifters actually require integrated 14-day blocks just to disperse the stress so their bodies can recover.
Wow. So as a beginner, your nervous system is basically a confused intern. It adapts quickly to any basic instruction you give it.
Right.
But an advanced lifter's nervous system is a high-level CEO. It demands a highly complex, customized compensation package just to even show up to work.
That is perfectly stated. You can't treat the CEO like an intern or they'll burn out immediately.
Okay, let's unpack this. If you are that intermediate or advanced lifter and you've hit a plateau, like your CEO is just refusing to work, how do you manipulate your volume to force the body to grow again?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where volume cycling comes in. Precision point training and weightology both dive deep into this.
Volume cycling, so changing the amount you do over time.
Yes. Precision point training suggests doing 3 to 4 weeks of a high volume block, pushing those 20 sets a week.
But doesn't that cause a ton of muscle damage?
It does. It speeds up your metabolism, causes damage, depletes your glycogen, and your body panics. It responds by massively ramping up its recovery supply line muscle protein synthesis.
It's building a bigger repair factory to handle the stress.
Exactly. But here's the trick. You don't stay there. Right after those 3 or 4 weeks, you immediately switch to 3 or 4 weeks of low volume.
Wait, if you drop the volume, doesn't the repair factory shut down?
No, it has a delayed reaction.
Yeah.
Your body's recovery engine is still revving at maximum capacity, but the physical demand has suddenly dropped.
Oh, so you have all this extra recovery power with nothing to fix.
Exactly. And that extra power builds new tissue. That's called supercompensation. You over-recover with extra muscle size.
Okay, this is exactly like lowering your caffeine tolerance.
Oh, how so?
Like, if you drink 5 cups of coffee a day, a shot of espresso does absolutely nothing for you. You're numb to it.
Right.
You have to detox down to 1 cup a day for a few weeks so that the espresso actually hits you again. We're doing a volume detox.
That is brilliant. Yes, a volume detox. Weightology takes a similar approach. They say you should increase your set volume slowly, in 20% increments, until you finally hit a plateau.
And then you do the detox.
Right. Once you plateau, you drop down to a maintenance level, just 2 to 4 sets per muscle 2 or 3 times a week. That resensitizes the muscle to volume.
That sounds like a great system. But what if someone tries this, they bump up their volume, and instead of super compensating, they just get completely exhausted and achy?
Well, then they've hit the ultimate bottleneck, which is recovery.
Right. The 23 hours a day you're not in the gym.
Exactly. Triage method makes this very clear. The gym is just the stimulus. The actual muscle building happens entirely during recovery.
So if your recovery is trash, your volume ceiling is basically on the floor.
Yes, if you're doing high volume without enough sleep, and you really need 7 to 9 hours to release growth hormone, your cortisol spikes.
And cortisol breaks down muscle, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It literally eats the muscle tissue you're trying to build. Plus, your nutrition metrics have to be dialed in.
Like getting enough calories.
Adequate calories and about 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Without that, the volume cycle just falls apart.
How do you know if you're messing this up? Like, what are the red flags?
If you're feeling constantly sluggish, if your sleep quality suddenly gets poor, or if you're Thor for more than 72 hours, your volume is way too high. This raises an important question for you, the listener, about how you view your progress.
Yeah, because if you're constantly exhausted and hitting a wall, maybe you aren't a quote-unquote hard gainer who just needs to lift more.
Exactly.
Maybe you're just an under-recoverer. Like, we're constantly blaming the workout when we really should be blaming our bedtime.
It's so true. We love to micromanage the gym, but totally ignore our lifestyle.
All right, let's quickly recap this for everyone listening. You can get super strong on a minimum effective dose of literally just minutes a week. But if you want to build size, you need a targeted volume of 10 to 20 sets per week.
Yep, and you have to avoid that junk volume. No lifting super light and no ultra-short rest periods.
Right. Respect your training age, whether you're a sponge or a specialist CEO, and make sure to cycle your volume to resensitize your muscles. And obviously, you can't out-train a bad sleep schedule.
Never. Before we wrap up, I want to leave the listener with something a little provocative to mull over.
Ooh, I like the sound of that. Lay it on us.
So, we've established that muscle growth is fundamentally just the body's physical defense mechanism against a specific cyclical stress.
Right. Stress, recover, grow.
Well, what happens if we apply this exact same minimum effective dose and volume cycling framework to our minds?
Whoa. To our minds.
Yeah. Could we deliberately cycle periods of incredibly high mental stress, like learning a complex language or taking on a massive project, and then follow it with periods of low-volume mental maintenance?
To induce, like, cognitive supercompensation.
Exactly. Building cognitive resilience the exact same way we build a bicep.
That is fascinating. Treating mental burnout just like overtraining in the gym, you just need a mental deload week to over-recover. I absolutely love that.
It completely changes how you view a stressful month at work, doesn't it?
It really does. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. And to you listening, I highly encourage you to take a hard look at your own routines this week. Find your minimum effective dose, avoid the junk volume, and start experimenting. Catch you next time.